All right.
Okay, it is
See,
now.
It is 6:30, so I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Just want to say at the beginning that we're very sad to hear that Judy Lund, who is usually the chairperson, and has been for a long, long time, had an unfortunate experience this week and is not going to be able to be with us today because her husband died. So we send her our condolences, and we're thinking of her. And with that, we should review and approve, if possible, the meeting minutes for last meeting, which was May 1st.
I've reviewed the meeting minutes, and I was here for that past meeting. So I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Right.
I will abstain because I was not in attendance.
One abstention. Any nays? Okay, we consider those approved. All in favor? We're all good? Yep, okay. All right, then we move on to the demo applications. And we have 6 of them on the agenda tonight. The first one on the agenda was 247 Russell's Mills, and that, there's no representation there at this point and maybe at the end of the meeting, so we'll just postpone that one for now and move on to 33 Hetty Green Drive, window replacements. If you could just explain a little bit of what it is you'd like to do, and then anybody can ask questions. and
Okay, thank you.
proceed.
My name is Pauline Brookfield. I was born and raised in Dartmouth. In fact, this building was my middle school, then called junior high. So I'm very fond of Dartmouth, although my husband and I have a home in New York City now because that's where we were able to get good jobs. We're both retired now. We have a home at Round Hill. And we own one of the units that's one of the original buildings of Round Hill. It was the former dormitory for the colonel, and it was converted into 3 units back sometime in the late 70s or early 80s. And we have owned it since 1997. And it desperately needs window replacement. And so we would like to replace 20 windows. We're replacing them with exactly as they look now. We have been working with a contractor, Jeffrey Fisher Windows from Waltham, who has replaced other windows at Round Hill. And I'm hoping that can be approved because the windows, we're trying to maintain the integrity of the home. It's a really beautiful building. I'd welcome you all to come and just visit and see what they've done to Round Hill and really to keep the integrity of the properties. So I'm hoping that you'll approve my request for new windows.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the window replacements for 33 Hetty Green Drive.
I second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or not? Okay, we consider it approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
We'll sign off on the electronic thing, and then there will be an electronic approval letter that will go towards your application, on your permanent application.
And that will go to the window contractor as well? Or that?
It'll be available on the town's portal,
Oh, okay, great.
and so you can get it there.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
Okay, next up is 77 Greystone Ave.
Hi everyone, my name is Scott Aruda. I live at 77 Greystone Ave. I bought it like 2011. I've actually met with you guys probably about 7 years ago to do vinyl siding on the side. My father-in-law recently had a stroke, so it's kind of really tough on my mother-in-law. So we're looking to add an in-law setup and move both of them into our house.
Any questions, comments? It's just, I think it's a 1-bedroom.
Yeah, one bedroom, one bath.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to see the plans and pictures online, or does anybody need to see the hard copy?
These are the hard copies right here,
Right.
if you haven't seen details and drawings online.
Just one second, I'll see if there's any more questions.
The siding is going to be the same siding?
To
as
match the house, yes.
to match, yeah. Okay.
Well, if there are any further comments or questions? Okay, there being none,
I'll make the motion to approve the addition of the in-law accommodations as per the plans presented to us and so
I'll
forth.
second.
Yeah.
all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Abstentions? There being none, go to it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming. Okay. Next up is 44 Russell Mills Road. Hi.
David Pimental with Pimental Contractors. I'm actually here with, on behalf of Mr. Crosby. We're going to be looking to get approval to replace all the siding with natural cedar of the house, and then to also replace the windows, pretty much keeping the style of the windows that are there, just putting a newer version with an Anderson window. And we may have to do a repair to the chimney as well, which we haven't applied for yet. We're not really sure until we get up there and look at what's going on with that, but that's going to be probably something else that could be done at the same time. I don't know if my secretary submitted all the pictures.
Well,
Yeah,
we-
there was-
we got
Okay.
them, yes.
I think it's pretty cut and dry. The windows are the same size of what's going in there. I think the frames of the windows are black, and we're going to do a black window with the yellow trim again. It's going to be pretty much the same thing. So that's all we're looking to do at this point.
And then-
go ahead.
sorry. So cedar shingles will be
Natural cedar.
replacing the old
Yep,
ones, yes.
yep.
And then these are the windows, are they 2/2 or 2/1, or what?
They're 2/1, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, all right. You're the homeowner? Yeah, okay. So that's what.
Yeah, the stone window gets eliminated by the new window.
Right.
And I don't know if we're going to put shutters back on or not. No, so I don't think we're going to put the shutters back up. They've about had it, so,
Right.
yep. And it's the whole house.
484 was not built in 1948. There's a Form B on file that states that it was constructed in 1850. That's pretty much all that I have to add to that. But I think that if this house has not been updated for the inventory, it may go on the list.
Okay, definitely.
I think
Sound
it's
right?
probably older than 1850.
Does that sound right?
1850.
It's probably older than that if you look at it.
The
Well,
house is older than that.
okay,
It was originally a center chimney cape,
Yeah.
and in the year 1900, they took the roof off and put a second story on it with the hip roof that's on it now. And, I mean, there's only been two families that have lived in the house that's entire existence. First the Mackimbers, which was Mackinber Corner right there.
right.
And then the Crosbys, which my father bought it in 1960. And then he remodeled it, and I grew up in the house and inherited it on his passing.
The early, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
As David will ascertain, I mean, we've taken great lengths to match exactly what is there, even going so far as the idiosyncrasies of the coffin window that's in one room downstairs, to try to keep it as historical as possible, while still having windows that open, are a little bit more energy efficient, and we don't have to prop up with
Sticks.
in the windows.
Yeah.
And probably more historically accurate, we're moving the triple track storm windows off of it.
Right, right.
Yeah, the house is a great read for any architectural detective. You can see that it was a story and a half
Yes.
early, you know,
We've got a-
even the entrance is Greek revival detailing and so forth and
Exactly.
so on, yeah.
We
So-
have a gentleman that's come by a couple of times with an antique camera
Oh.
that has enjoyed taking photographs of the house
Oh.
with his stand-up antique camera with the hood that he puts.
That would be Sebastian LaSalle.
Oh, yes, right, yeah. Well,
Exactly.
oh, and thanks for coming back. I think you missed the deadline last
I
month.
did, yeah, I
So
think we
we're
missed it by
sorry
15
for
minutes.
that, But
That's
we have
okay.
to follow the rules,
I-
and we appreciate
I-
you coming back.
Yep, yep,
And it's not a significant, not a terrible delay, I hope.
yep.
But that's the way it goes sometimes, yeah.
Is it possible to make note that we're gonna probably have to repair the chimney, or do just we have to go through this again? Or,
It was in the original application.
oh, it was, okay,
So
okay.
I had it in my notes
right,
already, so I
great.
think that unless there's somebody else who's gonna dispute this.
Oh, that was, what was that for the chimney, flashing, lead flashing?
Repair
Where-
chimney
yeah.
and flashing was what
Yeah.
I remember reading.
Yeah, oh, here it is, right, yeah.
We're hoping we can repoint it and put it back up. We don't know the extent. There's been some serious things that have fallen down through the back of the chimney, so we won't know till we start pulling it apart. So we'll see what's what once we get in there.
Does anybody think there's another reason to come back for a chimney?
I don't think so.
No,
If it's
okay.
listed here, it
Okay.
seems like it's part of the.
And now we've discussed it a
Right.
little bit.
Oh, just, this is point of curiosity. So the new cedar shingles, the old house, it's currently painted,
Right?
but will you paint?
No, they'll be natural.
Natural.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It'll be nice. It's a good-looking house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very nice.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to permit the window replacement at 484 Russell's Mills Road.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Okay.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming back.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
All right. Next on the list is 194 Richard Street, siding and sunroom. I don't think, we don't have anybody from Richard Street, do we?
No.
Okay. Just make a note on here.
No show, no vote.
Okay, then that leads us to 35 Buttonwood Road.
Hi, how you doing?
Aye.
We're replacing, so we've owned the home for 13 years and we just moved in, so we're in the process of rebuilding it and bringing it back up to, into a livable house. We've rented it for the last number of years, and the last number of renters have really not done justice to it. Didn't tell us what was going on, so we've been rebuilding the house, and it needs 16 windows, which are replaced, it's probably sometime during the 70s. Because they're track windows, there's no pulley windows at all in the house anymore. And haven't been since we've owned it. We've owned it for 13 years. So we're basically replacing old, regular 3-track windows with the storms with Harvey vinyl. We looked at Anderson renewal, but it's 3 times the cost. So there's no way we can afford that for putting in that number of windows. And we need it. We're doing a lot of insulation to get it back up to code. Get back up to stuff. And then there's also, I think in there talking about siding the house next year. So the house probably is cedar shingles. It's been 30 years, I bet, since it's been last resided, so it needs to be resided. The outside is something that we know we're gonna do. So we're planning on residing it with composite shingles next year. Just don't know what brand, don't know how we're gonna do it.
Okay, so you'll come back for that one.
If we need to, if you can't do that now, yes.
Well, he's got it listed here as one of the tasks, windows and cedar shingle is in need of repair.
Right. Any other weigh-ins on whether we are approving the shingle replacement at the same time?
I would prefer that it be done closer to when
When-
the date
Doing it
is.
next spring, probably?
Yeah, that's why I put a note on it that it was coming in 2024 on my sheet, so I kind of expected it to be a separate thing,
Sure.
unless there's an objection on the commission.
I would be okay with it, but I don't know if the permit will be granted to do the work when the time comes,
If we were to approve it now, you mean? Right.
because doesn't it run out?
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah, I think there is a time.
If we approve
The
it,
permit hasn't been applied, there has been no permit applied for it yet. I just put it there as a heads up for you folks. I didn't
Okay,
know,
that's what I took it as.
because initially I didn't know we had to report to the historical commission. And we've had a house that's been a 200-year-old house. We've been in it for 25 years. Did work on it and never had to appear before the commission, so
Was it all interior?
it was.
Okay, any further discussion? So we're
Just-
we're
just to-
talking
okay.
just about the windows
We're
at
just
this
doing
point.
windows and
Just
cedar
clarify.
shingles at another date.
Sue?
This house also has a Form B that was done in 2010.
And this is also 1860?
I think Josh Melyush said it was constructed in 1850, yeah.
1850, okay. I'll take another look at that.
It was originally, I believe, a Tripp house. George Tripp, he was a stonemason, and he lived in the house with his wife.
Yeah, you can tell. There's 3 stages to the house, at least. Maybe more.
Well, are there any other further questions about the nature of the windows? So that they conform to the previous style and?
No, I mean, well, but the previous style, I mean,
No,
they
or
don't
the-
really, because they're 6
The
over
previous
6.
is and
They're
they're
6 over 1.
And they're
On a lot of the windows,
1970s that you're
Some are,
replacing.
some aren't. I mean, the style is long since gone in that house, probably in the 70s. Whoever did it redid the windows in the 70s, so I don't know what the original style was. Right now, it's a mix match. It's a mix and mash.
Will they all be, will the new ones be all consistent if there's a mixed batch?
The new ones are gonna be all 1 over 1.
1 over 1.
That's the plan, to make all the windows 1 over 1 eventually.
Any further discussion or comment?
I make a motion that his demo is approved and he can go and do his windows.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Good luck.
coming.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other properties or things that we need to discuss from anybody else?
Only the police station, but nobody's here. What do we do for that?
Right. Well, I think we do all the rest of our business, and if they show up before we're done, then we can choose to go back and deal with it, and otherwise, we kick it down the road to next time. Unless anybody has a better
I think
plan.
Diane Gilbert is ready to tell us what is going on in
With what?
Wilbur Land.
What?
With what? No, we're
not
following the
there.
agenda order,
We're not there yet, Phil.
Bill.
Not even in there.
The only thing that I wanted to bring up briefly is, I think 8 Macumber, the people at 8 Macumber Street, I cut it off on here, so I don't have it. They want to do replace vinyl siding and a smaller deck. And I was wondering if anybody else had seen that application.
I saw it, but it wasn't on the agenda, so I didn't review
Because
it.
they haven't done a full HDPR yet. So I was wondering, they want to know whether their vinyl is like for like enough, which it's vinyl for vinyl. And then there's smaller, the thing is that they are replacing a larger deck with a smaller one, and I just got clarification about that today. So I just, maybe if people could take a look at that and let me know your thoughts, because I guess technically it's changing 25% of one of the sides, but it's reducing the thing that was there, but that is still a change. So I just thought it's something that I would welcome any input that anybody had. Hi.
Are you here about the
Are
police
you
station?
here about
I am, yes.
Okay.
something that we were gonna discuss? Perfect timing. You're on.
What's your name, sir?
Chris Vitale.
Thank you.
That's right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Chris Vitale. So I'm the new assistant town administrator for the town of Dartmouth. I was able to, because I knew this was on the agenda for tonight, take a look at the demolition permit that the town had put in. This is a project that the town has been eyeing for a while, but just with regards to the permit, I know that the project was put out to bid. There was a contractor who has been awarded the project, so I believe the capital expense on it's about $500,000. So this is, definitely something that the town would like to move on. But certainly there were some questions from this board, and hoping to answer that this evening.
Good.
I'll just start.
Questions? Yeah.
It came before us last month's meeting, and I
Okay.
believe Judy Lund, the chair, kicked it back to you guys because there was insufficient information in the application. So you're back here again tonight to present and so forth.
Yes.
My recollection from what I looked at last month, the application, nothing has changed, has it, from last month's filing?
So and I apologize because I don't know the date of the correspondence, but I do know that there was correspondence between the commission and our town administrator with regards to the plan for once the property is, or the building is demolished. At this point, because this is a multi-million-dollar capital project, this is going to be a phased project. And so at this point, the plan for the demolition would be to grade the property and to loom and seed until there's a time where the town has made a decision where it wants to go. I know that there was discussion about a new recreation facility, but even that facility wouldn't necessarily take the exact footprint of this police station. So in terms of new site plans, it would be my expectation that that entire property would have a new site plan, including new landscaping at the time where it's gone through design, the project's been priced out, and it would be up for consideration by the boards.
Just a follow-up to that. So per the site plan review and the map, rather, of the site and the scope of the demolition, it's the so-called sick old police building that's coming down, right?
And I believe there's also an ancillary structure behind it as
Right,
well.
I was going to get to that, and some sundry buildings and so forth, yes.
Yeah.
So those are coming down. What will be preserved is the building, the historic building, which is Dartmouth Community TV, and the memorial boulder and the flag
At the front,
staff.
at the front of the property.
At the front.
That's
So-
correct.
So those bits are the ones that are outside of the scope of the demolition.
That's correct.
And the other ancillary buildings are the concrete block garage building, et cetera, et cetera. Is that,
I think my understanding, and I'm still getting my bearings in terms of the town facilities, but I think this was like in 80s. I think that was my understanding, is these are relatively newer buildings, not as old as the actual building itself, but it's directly behind the property to the, if I'm getting my maps right, to the west of it.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. I just wanted to have a clear understanding about what was staying and what was going, and I think that you answered that.
Other questions?
Well, I just want to point out the irony here that, you know what I'm about to say. People in this town are not allowed to knock things down without a plan to rebuild because the town wants the tax rolls, on the buildings. So now the town wants to do what they don't allow anybody else to do. That's,
There was a comment made, I think, on the application to, asking what it was being replaced with, and I think that's kind of where
right,
might have
so.
been coming from.
We traditionally do not allow people to knock things down to clear the land. I don't know if we're gonna make an exception in this case, but it's a
Go
rather
ahead.
different scenario than somebody's home, but
Be tough to make.
it's
a
just an
precedent.
ironic point we find ourselves at here.
Well, yeah, I speak. There is an open lot on Elm Street. It used to be a mansion there, and they tore it down. And there is someone using it to park his front loaders and all that good stuff. And they're just using the land. And it's right before you get to Peyton Aram, and it's like, so I hope they do have some idea of what they're gonna, are they gonna fence it in with some sort of a blockade of it so you don't see the mess that's going on in there when they're doing the demo and everything to it?
So what I do know about the project in terms of when the actual demolition is taking place, I know that there is going to be access to the back of the property, because my understanding is there's still some storage that they're going to need access to, a couple of the different departments. My understanding is they are still going to be able to get on the property, and that they're going to close it off and, again, make it so that you can get back and forth. And I, just to the comment that was made with regards to, other zones within the community, just because this is, again, it's a multi-million-dollar capital project, I think that the town wanted to, just again, based on the preliminary work and my understanding of what's been done to date, there just needs more time before they're ready to take that to the next phase of the project. So in the meantime, the building is a public safety hazard just within the current state of it, from my understanding. And with the current contract already awarded, this would be something where any putting off of that project might cost the town more later, in terms of the demolition. So,
Sue, I'd like to just go on record. I mean, to review the photographs that we were provided with of the old police station, let's call it I'll just call it that. Any town would be delighted to have a building that looked the way it does. I know that's not a reflection of what's going on the interior, but I think technology has moved in a positive direction in terms of the capacity for remediating Legionnaire's disease. So why the town, anybody on that committee decided that demolition was the way to go, I just can't wrap my head around it. And what multi-million-dollar project are you referring to on that site? The recreation center?
so there was previous discussion of a recreation facility or community facility being at that building. Just again, based on my prior experience and what I know about projects of that, that's going to be a substantial capital investment. Now, with regards to cost, again, once the determination of the square footage of the facility, the configuration on the property, a final dollar amount, but the town's at the very beginning of that process. It's not close to the end.
And this will get back to Jordan's point about the fact that we don't approve of projects until we get to see site plans. I mean, this multi-million-dollar recreation facility that everybody keeps talking about, number one, the old police station is not located in the center of town. And I understand that you haven't been part of all these conversations, so I'm just throwing that out there to you. This is not the center of town. They've talked about property up in North Dartmouth where a potential recreation center could be located, or anywhere else in town that would be closer to the geographic center. So the fact that we're moving, not only that, but town meeting would have to approve the expenditure of building this multi-million-dollar recreation center. We're not there yet. So, I don't know, to me, I know it doesn't do the building any favors to leave it idle and unoccupied, but I think this is a colossal waste of money, just because I think it is. Sorry.
Well, Sue, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you think it's a colossal waste of money?
Because structurally, I don't think there's an issue with the building.
You say that Legionnaire's disease can be remediated.
It can be remediated, yes. Now with new technology, yes, they can remediate.
Can I ask you a question? Who are you sitting in with meetings when you're discussing this and how to move forward? Who are the persons?
Well, I suppose with regards to the scope of this project, Compass Group Architecture is the consultant who is helping us with the demolition of this project. Francesco Demolition Incorporated is the one who was awarded the project for the demolition of it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but who are the town officials spearheading this?
So my understanding is for this project, it's from our town administrator's office. Now, again, because this was prior to my time starting with the town, I'm sure that he's incorporated other departments into it. I'm not going to speak for our town administrator this evening on that front, but the decision that came from their select board was to move forward with this demolition.
So it's Mr. McGinnis and the select board are moving this forward. These are the people in the room discussing this typically.
Yeah, and Sean McGinnis's name is on the
Well,
application.
right, yeah, I saw that last month, yeah. Okay. I just wanted to.
Since this is a site that can remain vacant for an indefinite period of time, I would hate to see it sit there as like an abandoned, fenced-in site. I'd like to see, I would like to see the town caring for and taking care of the property so that it doesn't become a weed-riven, asphalt, empty lot. How do you think, can you get back to us on how the town would address that issue?
I'm certainly happy
It's
to.
a very high-profile site,
Yeah.
and to see it like fenced in with a anchor fence or something like that for 5 years or 10 years while everybody argued and made up their minds about what to do with it, I don't think it behooves us to see the site remain that way. I also think it would be put to better use as a housing site than as a recreation site, because that's become a big issue in Dartmouth as well as other towns. But I think this would become a town meeting issue anyway, probably.
Yeah, and I guess just to speak
Welcome to the town of Dartmouth.
Oh, thank you. No, I guess to speak to a couple of those points. So with regards to, should the station comes down, as originally planned, the proposal would be graded and there'd be lumen seed, so it'd be grass, where the current facility is.
To be maintained.
And as part of that, I can certainly follow up with regards to the operational upkeep of the property once the building comes down. Happy to follow up or just provide a follow-up report on that front from our departments. And then just with regards to future use, again, that was the discussion with regards to the recreation facility, again, just based on my understanding of the history to date. They're at the very beginning of that process in terms of feasibility and future programming on the site. They're not at the end of that process. So, as additional conversations are had, certainly community input I expect will happen.
Are there any other ideas that have been floated besides a community center?
So I don't have information to share with you, just again, because of my relative new experience to the town. I'm certainly, just for my own knowledge, I'm certainly going to, catch myself up on the conversations that have been had to date. So I can provide more information.
Right, because I guess my concern is the same thing, you know, we've had to, in my short time here, we've said no to anything that didn't have a replacement. You know, we don't just tear down and let things go vacant, and there've been some horror stories, so it just doesn't seem like, why would this be an exception? Is it just because it's the police station and it's a town asset that can't be used as that anymore, and the contamination? Or is that a reason to be an exception? Or maybe it's something we need to reconsider?
Is that,
I'd just like to get on the record that the awkward position this decision puts us in, because it becomes a precedent,
Right.
it's public, and we have to make decisions in the future. And if we make this decision in one way, it's going to make it extremely difficult, and we're not going to feel very comfortable being, you know, continuing doing that same thing, because we've been doing the other in the past. So it's a kind of a watershed situation. I think we need to be very serious, we and the town, about setting a precedent that might be more costly than delaying the decision, at least.
Which,
well, I think I was
Thank you,
next, but then
Bruce.
we want to hear from you too. But let me just say that, does the commission feel like it's moving in the direction that we're going to deny this app and consider it preferably preserved, and and go to a public hearing, and within that, when we put a stay on this, if we put a demolition delay stay on it, it's in that period where we seek from the town conceptual drawings of whatever may be at that site, and what they plan, and further pinpoint dates of construction. It would put the town's feet to the fire a bit, rather than just vaguely saying, someday we run a recreation center there. But you'll have these months to work towards this goal, and then we meet again at the end, and we may have something more substantive and concrete to discuss.
Yeah, go on,
Linda?
Rick.
My point would be that we, in terms of the Historic Commission, ask any resident to provide some kind of other solution to a building that they want to tear down. And as Sue has said, it would seem that in today's technology, there would be a way to remediate the Legionnaire's disease plumbing issue. And it would seem that the town should also have the responsibility to figure out how to use that building in a better way if the problem of the plumbing can be resolved. And if it could be gutted and then reused for some other purpose, that's what we ask residential customers to do when they come before the board. So it would seem logical that we should ask the town to do the same.
Thank you.
So could I say something? So does that,
I
what is it?
think Phil
Oh,
had his hand
okay.
up first, so I'm sorry.
We're in a predictable spot here. They're putting this on us to vote or put it in a delay. I think the outcome of this should be that we should vote for it to be put in a delay to protect the site of the building and everything until they come up with a plan that will satisfy everybody's need in that area and in the town of Dartmouth. So that's my opinion.
Well, I just, yeah, I follow up with that. I think that we're moving towards denying this demolition application and moving it towards perfectly preserved status and going forward with public hearings and so forth, till we get a more defined picture of what this site will be.
It should show some plans, or even sketches of something that would be in the future, like in the next couple of months, of what they plan on doing, because basically tearing down a building like that isn't gonna take long. It's gonna take maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks to get it down, and then the rubble brought off someplace, and that's another thing. What are they gonna do with all the rubble? I mean, are we gonna be responsible for getting rid of the rubble?
No, that's
part
not
of
our
the-
purview. But I
Right.
think we do need to look at this. It seems like we're looking at it in two ways, or there are two parts to this. One is the precedent of the building coming down with no plan to replace it, which we don't allow for anybody else. And then the other part is that we, as Linda said, we ask others to try to preferentially preserve, to reuse, instead of tearing down whenever possible, and I think it's worth exploring those options. It seems that maybe the town already kind of had this plan of what it would like to see once it was all gone, without considering the option of keeping it. And I know there have been a lot of health issues, et cetera, but I tend to agree with Sue and Linda. There may be other ways that haven't been explored, or at least could be explained to us.
And I suppose to that point, again, just me coming to, on board and not necessarily knowing the conversations that have taken place prior, I'm happy to see what conversations took place to bring them down this road for this consideration. And certainly if that's information to bring to this commission, I'm happy to do so. Again, just, whether it was a cost, whether it was a, other decisions at play, happy to share that.
I think maybe what we're looking for is what remediation could be done to that building. Has that been really looked into? And is there a company that might be able to completely gut it, do whatever is needed to do to rehab it enough to keep it as a useful structure? And if those conversations happen, if there's a company that's had a look at it and examined it and said yes or no, that would be information that we would like to have. And if there have been conversations about other possible uses, that would be good to have too.
So,
Are there further comments?
I just want to say that the town is not going to come up with conceptual designs for a project that may or may not happen. That's all got to be vetted through other departments, and it has to go, the eventual approval would have to be done at town meeting, and town meeting is tomorrow. So this would not happen until the fall, which would mean October.
So, what are you saying with that?
What do you suggest?
I'm saying that we have to deny this and go down a different road, because otherwise.
Okay. So are we looking to make a motion that denies the request based on the comments made by the various commission members and a member of the public, right? And that, this violates precedence, right? Basically, because, right? And then, that's essentially it.
I mean, do we want to be on record for breaking that rule for the town?
No.
Does the town uphold that rule to protect? I don't know, it's
No.
like, it seems like a conflict of interest.
Right. So we're
Sounds like
hedging
we're all in
towards,
agreement on that.
we're hedging towards making a motion to deny the application for demo based on the various comments made by the various commissioners of the.
I think another aspect of this, we've talked about the concept of demolition by neglect. And this is not the classic example, but it could be if we allow them just to carry it on pretty soon and say, well, look at the conditions here, it's going down. And I think we've got to be very careful about trying to make sure something happens that's positive. Because otherwise, the building will fall apart, and it'll be a condition of, we can't fix it now, which is what is often done.
Which is exactly what happened at Gidley School.
Yes, exactly right.
I suppose just as a follow-up to this conversation, again, because I want to make sure in terms of a path forward, both for this board as well as our offices, if we come back before you, I want to make sure that any continuation or any expectations that are set by this board, we can either hit or just be transparent in terms of, yeah, this is a timeline that we can hit or not hit. Just based on the commentary that's been had tonight, if you would entertain a motion to continue this to your next meeting so I can go back and have a conversation with Sean and our administration, and just, again, reiterate the concerns that were brought up this evening with regards to the future use of the property, and at least in that case, I can come back and definitively say what we can and can't do in terms of timeline.
That means
Something that the bylaws allow?
we can table. We can
Table?
table.
Yeah,
Okay.
table it.
I just want to make
We
sure.
did-
that-
That way you balance the.
Yeah, so we're not moving in, we're not doing a denial and
Right.
moving it into preferably preserved status, but we're saying tabling it until we have further information on it
Right.
in a month's time, or whenever you guys can pull it together.
Okay. Do we have a motion for that?
I don't say anything I
Is that,
Wait, Linda,
yes?
I think you have to review your demolition bylaw. I think you might run out the calendar if you table it.
What?
I think,
That may happen either way.
I think you have to look at your bylaw and look at your dates and see what you've got for time to table it would approve it.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying. If
Yeah,
we
let me
table
think
this,
about it.
and we're gathering more information for the next meeting.
but if the, but if the,
The bylaw does not allow for tabling,
That's what I was asking.
so
But we
you,
can't table, we're not, we can't table something? Per Robert's rules?
not if there's a bylaw that discusses
a
addresses
calendar.
yeah, there's a timeline. So in other words, if we don't make a decision tonight which
Made
way to
for-
go, we gain the extension by right of the, the fact that we've declared it preferably preserved. That gives us how long?
6 months.
6 weeks, right?
Oh, no, more,
6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we don't do that,
okay.
then the timeline could run out for demolition delay that we have not made a decision if we table it.
Okay, so tabling's not a good idea.
Not an option, I don't.
Not an option. So we are moving towards denying it and moving towards preferably preserved status. Would you agree with that, Linda?
Yes.
Yeah, as a-
If we,
for our
And if
bylaws.
you move to a public hearing, then you can get the input from the town and other people involved in the process of making the decision, which is ultimately what you want. You want to have that other second opinion about the building and whether it's usable in another form if you were to gut and remove all the facilities. Because, as Susan says, it's a structural building that looks like it should be preserved for other use, as we ask residential customers to do the same.
But does that, if we requested demolition delay and the town allows the clock to run out in 6 months, and they go ahead and do what they want to do anyway, does that take precedent over us not being able, not approving, how do I parse this? A demolition without a set of plans for what is going to replace the demolished property? Doesn't that take precedent over a demolition delay? Does that make any sense to?
I'll say this, at least we will have done the right thing.
I think that's about where we're gonna land on this, is we have 6 months to at least get some public input, and meanwhile, we have continued to do what we say we're gonna do, and that's not to approve a permit for somebody who has not come up with a what's going to replace what's being demoed.
So at the end of 6 months, I'm sorry,
No, I'm sorry, at least it doesn't put us in that position of
right,
bending the rules or second, or double standard or any of that
right.
situation.
So we've covered that base, but at the end of the 6 months, can the town just go ahead
Yes,
and
Yes.
demolish
Just
the
like any other-
building without coming up with a
yes,
conceptual
Yes.
set of plans?
yes,
They
Yep.
can, but at
Yes.
least we
Really?
will have
And they
had a
probably
say.
yes.
Public hearing, yep.
Yeah.
Now, is there is a town meeting, is that considered a public meeting?
No.
No.
But Linda makes a good point about, with a public hearing, other parties will be in the audience, either speaking for or against it, so, that, we create.
It's a little more democratic.
Yeah.
So there's 10 days, we put a hold on everything, then it goes before the people who are gonna review it, beyond us. Then if they don't reach any conclusion, then it goes to a 6-month delay, right? And they should have plenty of time within the 6 months to figure out what they're gonna do with the building, I'm sure. And we won't be feeling guilty about our vote on the matter.
Right.
It seems like the way to go is to deny this and
Yes.
move it towards preferably preserved.
But we have
For the
to,
points you make, Jordan,
Jordan,
and for the points that Linda made, right, and Sue.
And Sue,
will you make the, would you write this, make the statement that you want the commission to be together
I didn't
on?
know I'd have such an important role on my last meeting after 9 years.
It's not a
I
surprise.
have one more question. If, is it David or, well, can you?
Chris.
It's Chris.
Can he withdraw his request for the demolition to come back at our next meeting with more fact-finding? Give him a chance to do his research and re-enter the demolition delay request, or the demolition
I don't know
request?
the answer to that.
Do we want to run the risk of tabling it and then not being able to have any input?
I would have thought they would have to reapply with a different HDPR if we were,
But Linda just said the bylaw doesn't allow for tabling of such a thing.
right, he
So-
would have to withdraw this application.
Do you have the authority to withdraw their application? I don't know if you
That's what I
have-
don't know.
have the agency to do that in your position.
If he,
No.
So that means you would, well, if you make a phone call and you want to withdraw it, I guess that's your
Is that what we
decision.
want? I don't see how that's going to help anything.
Well, it pushes back the
Yeah, yeah.
possibility of.
I know, I don't
I think we've got two choices, right? We have a choice to either approve or to,
I'm going, if the
Postpone.
discussion is closed, I'm going to make a motion that we deny the demolition application for the reasons stated by the various commissioners of the commission. And that's that.
And I'll second it.
all in
in
favor?
favor, aye.
Right.
Any opposed? It's been preferentially preserved.
What's wrong?
No, you gotta schedule a public hearing.
Right, and it's 21 days out, isn't it? Or is it 10 days out? We haven't done that in a while, so.
It's in the plan, it says 10 days.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to look it up, but
You have to do it at this meeting?
Yes,
Or do we just say that there has been a delay and the hearing will be held within 21 days?
You should be able to set a date.
let's look at our calendars and set a date. It seems like 21 days was
Gonna
3
be
weeks
right
essentially.
up against 4th of July weekend.
And we were gonna be postponing our next meeting, that was at the end of the agenda, but until July 10th as it is, because we were supposed to meet on July 3rd.
Right.
So,
Um,
so that would be.
3 weeks out is the 26th
26th.
of June.
So what date?
26th of June.
Is 3 weeks, it's a Monday, it's 3 weeks from tonight. Do we add to the motion made that we've scheduled the next meeting 21 days out for June 26th? Do we add that?
That's just the public hearing, that's not our meeting, right?
Well, that's,
Right,
that's,
right.
you're right, but yeah, the public hearing.
So we'll add the
Do we- but
date
we do- do
of
we add
the
that?
26th of June to the motion. Is that right?
20 days.
20.
If the commission finds that the building is significant, it should hold a public hearing within 20 business days.
Oh,
of the written
business.
notification
Within
to the
20
building
business-
committee.
Business days, so we're all set with the 26th. Because that's 3 weeks from tonight, and that's
Yeah.
not business days. So shall we put that in?
Yes.
Jordan, if you could put in that important bit of the 20 or 21 day business days in the motion too. It just will reinforce,
Within 20, or is it 21?
Linda said it was 20.
20 business days.
Business, not calendar.
Gotcha.
You need to say that the building is historically significant so that you can make the public hearing.
Okay. So we,
Add that. But that can be
Because-
all in the motion.
What I wrote was James O'Day, seconded by Jordan, made motion to declare property at 247 Russell's Mills historic and preferably preserved, and move to public hearing for the various reasons stated by DHC members. A public hearing of June 26th has been scheduled, and then in brackets, I put within 20 business days as per, what, the bylaw?
Yeah.
I think, could you insert before that it's being preferentially preserved because it's historically significant? No,
I said historic.
period. Okay, because that wasn't in there anywhere at all.
Right,
Right, so I'm trying to get it in there.
And
and
I,
then you say it's preferably preserved after the public hearing.
right, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, move toward preferential preservation.
No, we can't say anything yet. We have
Okay,
determined
all
that
right.
it's historically significant, and therefore we are
Historically significant.
scheduling a public hearing for June 26th.
I'm not gonna mention preferential preservation.
No. And I would like a roll call vote on this, showing everyone where they came out on this. If we start at the end and
All
around.
right, we're going to take a roll call vote on this motion. Phil Baker.
Yes.
Yes, aye for
Aye.
Phil.
Rob Harding?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. So just roll call, unanimous vote.
Okay. You got it. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. I thought you were saying you were sorry, I was like, don't be sorry.
Well, we look forward to seeing you guys again with plans and so forth.
Thank you, Chris.
Wow. Okay. The next item is new business. What have you got there?
No, this is the bylaw, in case you wanted to.
I do have it, it's just with everything going on, and I knew Linda was all over it, so thank you for that, and, and maybe I need to start memorizing that, in case you're not here to back me up. All right, the next item is the next batch of Form Bs and their funding.
All right. Chris and I met yesterday just to do some other business, but the Form B funding, the RFP for that did come up, and the response from Town Administrator McGinnis and so forth, and from Chris as well. He wrote the letter suggesting, again, we look to CP CPC funding for this, but we respectfully disagree with their direction and their interpretation, and we're basically, as the commission, we're gonna forge ahead with the finance committee and the finance board with our RFP to raise funds to cover Form B survey work to the tune of at or around $10,000. And I think also today, McGinnis wrote to me again, and I think I copied you on that reply.
You did.
Saying, he was asking me one more time about more specifics, and I said the RFP was pretty cut and dried, nothing's changed, this is what we want, nothing more, nothing less.
You
And,
said it's just shy of 10K?
I thought it was just a little bit more.
no, it was not, no, because we were keeping it
Oh,
at
that's
or
right.
under the 10,000 mark, just like your
Right,
archaeological
right, the
survey
arch-
work
right,
for
right,
PALs.
right.
So, such and such 33 would be the number of subject properties in or around at $400 per survey. So I think something like that takes you to close to $10,000. So that's the status on that. I wrote to him late this afternoon before the meeting, so I haven't seen if he replied. But that's where we are. We're forging ahead with it, and we need to get their attention on this. And I think I'd like to have a conference with them, and I think I mentioned that to you yesterday. We really need a sort of face-to-face, so this, we're not hitting the badminton back and forth, whatever, the wiffle, what's a bad? Birdie, thank you. We're not hitting the birdie back and forth, because this has been going on for a couple months now, if not longer.
Right, well, I wish that I had some maybe they're in the files someplace, but I know from talking to Kathy Fair that we had a substantial budget back in the 80s. And I think she wrote to the tune of $8,000 or more. And and then it got pared back down. She gave me a timeline, and at some point it got pared down to stamp money. And so it's not unprecedented that we have a budget, and this is a mandate, something that we need to do, keep up with. The houses get older every year, and to continue to go back to the CPC for the funding every single time, it just seems like an extra step when we have this mandate to do this work. It should be much more direct and straightforward. And we came up against the choice we had to make this year between the archaeological survey and the Form Bs, so we didn't get any Form Bs rolling for the near future. And that's really where this conversation, those two places between my conversation with Kathy Fair and this, and it seemed to be supported on the CPC at some level as well, that they understood that we need to do this work every year.
And, I'm sorry.
So, go ahead.
Sorry to
I
interrupt.
think that's,
So I just wanted to
thought.
quiz Linda on this. You back us up on our way of thinking based on your knowledge of administrative budgets and the CPC funding and what CPC funds can or can't be used for an intangible object or project and so forth and so on. You've given us guidance, right, in the past year on this, haven't you? Since we started in May or April of last year, I wrote to the chair of the CPC seeking guidance. And by the way, and for the record, I received no response from him, and it's been a year. So we've charged ahead on our own, but thanks for your advice and knowledge and skills and ability, you've helped guide us towards this.
And I was in attendance, I think Diane was too, at a particular CPC meeting where there was a discussion about moving forward with Form Bs. And the whole concept of the responsibility of the Historic Commission to approve or not approve based on the collective inventory of Form Bs. And as someone just said, every year there would be a new batch of buildings in the town that come under the 75-year rule. So you have to keep adding to your collection and inventory of Form Bs on an annual basis, otherwise you wouldn't be able to really intelligently make the decision whether a building is significant or not. Yes, the CPC members at that particular meeting, where I was in attendance, did agree that the commission should have its own funding to be able to decide how many Form Bs it's going to do on an annual basis in order to support the town's bylaw. It's the responsibility of the Historic Commission to make that kind of determination. So there was a discussion, there was agreement, and I'm sure it's on the record. They do video all of their CPC meetings. I would say that it was in the fall of '21. It goes back a way. This is not new news. So yes, moving forward to have your own budget, to be able to do this work, is the way the CPC members had agreed at that particular meeting.
I have the minutes, so I can try to sort through those and see if I can find out which meeting it was.
Just want to add something to that. I think that as much as I'm sympathetic to the Form B inventory, I think in this particular climate, the town is hard pressed. We are looking at an extraordinary budget for the schools at this point, and we might be looking at a 2.5 proposition override. So I think that in spite of the fact that $8,000 or $10,000 is small change in comparison, it still could factor in, because that would still be part of the budget, and town meeting has the ability to deny it.
Okay, I think I wonder if there's another tack, because there is a lot of money in the historic line in the CPC, and it just keeps growing and growing until people come with the projects. You know, it's over $700,000 at this point. And so it just seems to me ironic that there's so much money that is available, but it can't be touched for the Form Bs. And I just wish that there was some way that the Form Bs could be, could take out of that pot of money. Diane, would you like to say something?
Yes, why not? I didn't really want to get in the middle of the Form Bs. Lord knows I've had a few years of doing Form Bs in the recent past. But I just want to point something out. I agree with what Sue has said. And there is a way to gradually do your Form Bs by getting admin funds from CPA. And it doesn't affect the operations budget of the town. And this admin fund, of which they must spend, or they can spend 5%, can be used for this. And as I recall, I do recall that John Souza had encouraged you, Chris, to try to put together your own budget. And John Souza does serve on the Finance Committee. And so you would have to kind of cross that bridge to make a case, whereas the admin funds are there, and CPC has always been willing to give you $10,000 or $15,000 a year. And to me, it's much cleaner to go that route, because this is important, because you can't use the historic preservation reserved funds for this. So yes, there is $700,000 sitting there, but it will have to sit there a while longer until other projects come to the fore. So, I mean, this isn't a bad deal, folks.
Well, it's not a bad deal. I don't understand what you mean.
Wait. I think the one piece that isn't part of this conversation that got missed is that we were not allowed to get the CPC funds for Form Bs because we had already taken admin funds for
Right.
the archaeology survey. So.
Know that, that's
so-
one
but
year.
Right.
That's
but
one
what if we
year.
had something, that's why we decided that it would be a good idea to try to go a different route, because it happened one year, so it could happen another year, and why not
Well-
just separate the two things so that we don't have to have a conflict like this, in case there's another archaeological survey type project that we want to do some year.
Okay, I
That's
mean,
all.
I'm
That was
just
my thinking.
explaining that there are ways to skin this cat.
Well, I think we know that.
Yes, and I'm just trying to emphasize for the public record that going to CPA for their admin funds ain't a bad deal. That's all I want to say.
We have tried to do that, and we spent that money on the archaeological survey.
But it's every year,
I know
Jamie,
that. But why can't we do two things at once?
because nothing,
Because there's no guarantee that town meeting will approve that part of the budget.
Right, but why don't we try? We've always been running away from asking for money, obviously, for a very long time. Why don't we run it up the flagpole and see how we do? It certainly wouldn't hurt anything, and we could accomplish something. While we're doing archaeological work, we can do Form Bs if they approve it at town meeting.
And we can
It
still
seems-
apply for the CPC
Well, certainly we
funding
can, but we've got-
as we're trying to get our own funding.
And John Souza, I was at that meeting or listened to it, he signaled, yes, he's on the finance committee, he would be supportive. And he, in fact, used the term, why doesn't DHC have some skin in the game? Meaning, why don't you have some money to do your own projects? So
sorry.
anyway, I'll just wrap up. So yes, that's why we pursued this path.
And we're also 2 years down the line from that, and now it's 2023, and now we're looking at a real crunch in, as far as town spending is concerned, and town meeting is not necessarily gonna be open to giving out additional funding.
Well, you say that, but that's just anecdotal. You
Well,
don't know
that's
how
just, that, and
well.
that's just my opinion,
Okay,
so.
but I don't think.
It's not
I don't think that-
anecdotal.
Well, it is, because you're saying, I don't think that's how the town meeting members think. And-
No, you're rephrasing. I'm saying that the climate now in town is that we are getting squeezed on all sides for budgetary reasons.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, okay.
And that if there were to be all the other, I don't know how many boards have budgets, but I know for a fact that the Ag Commission no longer has a budget, nor do we ask for one. And that holds true for a lot of other volunteer boards. So all I'm saying is, if the Historical Commission submits a line item in the budget, there's a chance that there'll be pushback based on what we're facing now in town for spending or potential overspending.
Understood. We make the best case we can that Form B survey work is part of our remit, all right? And we make that case to the town meeting, and we'll see how it falls. But I don't think we should just back away because we think people might not vote for a $10,000.
Talking about stuff.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Who do you request funding for the Historic Commission from? Who?
Finance Commission is where you go to discuss it first. That's what we were told to do, is to discuss it with the Finance Commission first.
And that's,
So
and
that's
then you
what
put
I'm
in a
answering.
request, you need $25,000 to do the Form Bs.
No, we need $10,000, Phil, 10.
So how many Form Bs do you have to do every quarter? Aren't you supposed to do so many Bs?
No,
Aren't you supposed to do 75 Form Bs every quarter?
no, we have no mandate for a certain number. It's what we would like to do. So we were just trying to request money of our own budget to do those Form Bs instead of doing what we have done in the past, which is to apply to the CPC for funding for those.
One more question, I'll leave you alone. Are you gonna get the same people who did the last Form Bs for you, or do you have to find someone else to do the Form Bs this time around.
That's too far down the line, we don't know yet. Because we haven't applied to get any more Form Bs done. We don't have funding for that yet. Stay tuned.
Thank you, sorry.
So Chair, I'll just make a point of order if we can draw this
Okay,
discussion to a
yep,
close.
let's draw it to a close and move on.
And move on. Unless there's any further comment, but I think it's time to,
I think so
Point
too.
of order.
I'm
Yep.
all set, sorry.
Did you want to make a point of order, or
My
just
point of
asking
order
to
is
move
yes,
on?
yes, right.
Got it. Next item is Diane Gilbert
That was my-
regarding her application to the CPC for heating improvement at the Aiken House.
Wow, this group really got warmed up this evening.
Are
I'm
you
go-
ready for us?
Trying to be ready.
Good.
You folks, and I apologize for being late because I wrapped up this document this morning, and I'm still getting input from various sources, but I wanted to get a document in front of you so that you could better understand why I'm here. And so there was potentially an expectation that following my meeting with CPC, our friends at the CPC, to tell them about some of the concerns or issues at the Aiken House, that meeting and that draft proposal was merely a stake in the ground to basically get in front of the CPC before their deadline for eligibility. And so they did determine that that particular proposal would be eligible for CPA funding. But right after that, because I've been working on this nonstop, it seems, since that last CPC meeting, that I've garnered a lot more information, talked to a lot more people, and in the effort of really addressing the situation at the Aiken House. So I'm just going to encourage you after this meeting, if you haven't already read the document, to go ahead and do that. But for the purpose of this evening, I'm just going to go ahead and read the first page. So this is study and proposal for heating, ventilating, and cooling the Aiken House. Introduction. Due to the recent failure of a mini-split heat pump unit, which has proven inadequate to manage the climate at the Aiken House, due to many factors not considered when it was installed, we must explore solutions that are more fitting for an 18th century building to ensure its viability for years to come. While the structural integrity of this historic house is reasonably sound, its viability and longevity as a historic house also depends on keeping the climate, atmosphere, temperature at a certain level during each season. It is imperative that we manage and mitigate the inherent moisture and dampness from further damaging or deteriorating the structure and its features and contents. The failure of this mechanical system has been a wake-up call for us. Sited on a high water table, the cellar in the house has been perennially wet with groundwater seepage that we have tried to mitigate, but there's more to be done. To assure the longevity of this 261-year-old building, we must abandon quick fixes and mechanical systems that are far beyond the capacity of an 18th century house. We must explore solutions that must be faithful to the historic elements and character of the house, by adopting to a degree the methods used by its original inhabitants for managing their environment. When this Georgian Cape-style house was constructed in 1762, the builders conformed to common sense principles. So I referred to the National Park Service Preservation Brief 24. I'm sure all of you like to consult those briefs occasionally. And this one, I quote, 18th century and later vernacular architecture depended on the siting of the building, deciduous trees, cross ventilation, and the placement of windows and chimneys to maximize winter heating and natural summer cooling. Thermal insulation was rudimentary. The comfort level for occupants was low, but the relatively small difference between internal and external temperatures and relative humidity allowed building materials to expand and contract with the seasons. In 2003, we must pursue solutions that meet the Aiken House where it is, not only in terms of its current condition, but also in recognition of the fact that we are facing climate change and weather patterns that present new challenges to our historic assets, such as a building like this, if we are going to continue to protect it for future generations. And I'll remind everyone that over the course of time, we have gotten CPA funding in stages, so we did not have the luxury, nor did we really have the interest to try to take care of all of it at once. That's not only unrealistic, it's impractical to do that. And also, at the same time, certain things are corrected, and then other issues have to be sort of delayed to try to address at a later date. That's kind of how it has worked going in front of the Community Preservation Committee. So I'm not going to go into anything else on this document except to say that we consulted subject matter experts in the fields of architectural preservation and those who have experience in managing early houses like this one. So I spent a lot of time, as you will see by this document, in talking to a lot of different people, and what they said was relatively consistent. We cannot put high-tech into a low-tech building. So now, what am I asking? I wanted to inform you about this situation with the Aiken House. I was advised by CPC to, basically discuss this with you. And I have the potential to submit a CPA application with a deadline of June 21st. Whether or not I'll be able to make that happen remains to be seen. In talking with Chris Vitale, who was here earlier, as well as Paul Holtz, who is with the Mass Historical Commission, and they also hold the preservation restriction on the house. Their advice, separately, was to start with a preservation architect to be able to assess the current situation that we have at the house, and then to come up with a proposal as to what to do next. And this would take some time anyway. So I did include in my report a laundry list of some of the issues and some of the conditions of the house. And, that will be taken into consideration. I'm not an architect. I have a lot of experience with this particular house, so I know it very well. But in this case, we really need to bring some expertise to bear on a proposal that we would like to present to CPC. CPC could accept some of the work items and not others, but those have yet to be determined. So I just laid it all out there as to all of the issues that we do see at the Aiken House.
I have some questions and comments if she's finished.
I'm finished.
All right. Thank you. That's a good overview and narrative of the conditions that you cite in the executive summary or introduction. It looks from this document, you interviewed or recorded about 11 professionals, I counted. 2 didn't respond, so we have.
No one did respond after the
Afterwards,
fact.
so-
Yeah, Ben Havoc from Historic
Okay.
New England.
So 10 out of 11 people responded. Okay. Let's see. Just background for everybody who wasn't aware of it. You presented at last month's CPC meeting wanting them to consider your request for a mini split. Yes, I think I'm right, a new mini split for the Aiken House at or around $15,000, I think was the number you assigned to it. This is what they discussed at the meeting. They didn't seemingly have a problem with that in terms of the figures, but Buddy Baker Smith did tell you this is a historic house. You now go to Historical Commission. Exactly. It's changed significantly. It's morphed into a $15,000 project into something we really don't quite know how expensive it'll be because you're proposing to hire a preservation architect, which can't be a cheap thing. So, and I'll come back to that later, but I just want to go on page 3, National Park Service Preservation Brief 24. Just under that, you have proposal. Is that a proposal they make, or is that a proposal you're making?
As I said in my intro, I did explain at the onset that I did go to CPC with a request for one thing.
Yes.
And then after that meeting, it was just eligibility. It wasn't cast in stone. I was just trying to get an idea.
The scope was just a mini split.
Which I learned after that meeting, that a mini split, after talking to several other people in the HVAC industry, was not a solution for this house. So that's why I veered into another direction. I too thought maybe this inexpensive solution might be a good way to go. But Paul Holtz and others, those who do manage 18th century houses, let's say, these mini splits don't work because the house isn't insulated. We don't have storm windows. The mini split that we did have that failed, it was sort of up and down for 5 years after the warranty ran out. It just stopped working because it was, these are smart, that's smart technology, but this was not the right technology for this house when it was put in. So we have to move on from that, knowing that that did not work out. Okay. And so now we have to try to come up with something else.
Okay. So we do see where Paul Holt, you have it in quotes, he does say hire a preservation architect. Just down the list, number 6, Richard Smith suggests monitoring it. I think, does he say monitor humidity? It's something with a humidity, I'm sorry, maybe it's, at any rate.
Several people recommended the monitoring.
Yes, for a 12-month period.
Right. Yes,
now,
right.
Rather than jumping in and going and proposing a preservation architect, maybe one begins with baby steps and does the humidifying monitor for a year or something like that. What did you mentioned Greg Jones? Did he make comment or did he?
Yes, he did.
What did he say? Because you don't have him quoted as saying
No, I
anything.
don't have him quoted.
Did he say anything?
Yes,
that's
he
quotable?
did.
What did he say?
Well, I'm not prepared to share what he said because he's consulting with me on an ongoing basis. He's one of my go-to people for this house because he also knows it intimately.
Well, why couldn't you tell us what he said? I mean, it's a professional meeting you had with him. It's a public building. Why couldn't you tell us? You mentioned other people and quoted them directly.
Okay. Because, excuse me.
I'm not finished.
I just want to explain something about Greg. He came, I wanted to put him on the list because I have been talking with him, but it's been an ongoing situation where we've been going back and forth, and some of his input was similar to the others.
Okay, fair enough,
So-
fine, okay. I just want to follow up with some other questions. And then this existing conditions you have here, is this your ask? Is this what would be the scope of the project?
I don't know yet. This is preliminary.
Okay.
And the thing is, for your benefit, maybe I'm being too transparent and too open.
How's that?
But I put down, for your benefit, and as well as mine, all of the issues that I see and others have seen at the Aiken House. So I just put a list of them. It doesn't mean that's going to end up in an ask proposal to CPC. Some of those things maybe we can correct ourselves. As far as a data logger is concerned, practically everyone, basically said, well, let's measure, because you can't manage what you don't measure. Let's measure the humidity and the temperature on each floor and get a better idea of what we're talking about here. Anyone who goes into the cellar will see that the cellar is very wet, and that is the area of the most vulnerability.
Okay, I just want to follow up. This will be my last bit of comments. What is it you want to see from us tonight? Do you want commission members to sort of opine on this?
No.
Do you want us to make a motion of any sort, saying, yes, go ahead and hire a preservation architect? What is it you're wanting from us?
Well, what I wanted from you was to inform you, because the way the town has structured the ownership of the Aiken House, it falls under the Historical Commission as opposed to the Select Board. And so that's why I'm making this stop here, because I think it is important that you do know the Aiken House and how important it is to be saved. And you can't just say, oh, the house is saved, we just put in $500,000, let's walk away and hope that it survives for the next, 200 years. It just doesn't work that way. So I wanted to inform, and as I get further along, maybe at another interval I can share if I do this. This is still tentative on my part, because to me it was more important to do all of this research first, and if I do put something together, and if I do get a preservation architect, which has been suggested, then that would be something that I would be looking for CPA funding to do. And then from there, work plans could arise out of the recommendations. And so then the process would begin, with that. Like, for example, a roof. We do need a new roof, but we don't need it yesterday or tomorrow. But at some point, we do need a new roof. And I put that on there so that people can be aware that these cedar roofs don't last forever. So that's why I itemize certain things, to make you aware of potentially what this house might need. I want to get another powder post beetle treatment, which I got 2 years ago. I don't go to CPA for that. That's through our operations funds that we fundraise. So I want to bring someone in to do that treatment, but it's still part of the house and the condition of the house. So there are certain things that we can address ourselves, like some ventilation now, but we're looking for better solutions down the road.
Okay, well, thank you for your information. And I think probably once we've had a little bit more of a chance to read it, because it did come in a little late. I didn't get a
course.
chance to read it all the way through it. Maybe we can send more comments to you by email, and then
Yeah.
once you have a list of what it is that you think you're gonna be asking the CPC for, come back and have some more transparency. It is helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is the Plummer Bridge plaque and its reinstallation on Little River Bridge. Yeah, yes,
As we discussed,
briefly.
yes, as we discussed yesterday, and I shared with you the memo outlining the process. We do have the plaque. DPW took it down and gave it to the Veterans Administration. And now, as my memo bared out, I'm in the process of gathering information and contractors' bids for the restoration of it, maybe perhaps recasting of it, and various scenarios of reinstalling it in an appropriate manner that honors the Plummer family. So that's where we stand with that.
Thank you. Are there any comments on that?
So, I'm sorry, the cleaning is off the table, or that's part of your exploration?
The cleaning is not off the table. That's part of
Okay.
exploration and restoration and conservation, yeah.
And the veterans agent has possession of the plaque?
No, we do, the Historical Commission does.
Where?
That's in a signed memo
Where's the
by
plaque?
Matthew.
Where's the plaque?
I have it because I accepted it from him. We both signed off
Why,
on it.
why do you have it?
Well,
It belongs to the American Legion, by the way.
Okay, we're not gonna get into that right
No, it's
now.
a point of order on that. I don't know about that. Ownership, it's town ownership. And there we are.
Just get it.
If it's been signed out and it is technically under town ownership, is that what you're attesting to?
I'm attesting that the Veterans Administration person signed off on it, handed it over to me.
The Veterans Administrator from Fairhaven, or the Veterans
From
Administrator?
Matthew-
From
Matthew
from
Rowley.
Plymouth, from Providence, Rhode Island? That
No,
VA?
we're all set. It's from Dartmouth.
Yeah.
Dartmouth.
That's that is the Veterans agent who is running the show on the plaque.
So next item on here is the Trainer House at 30 Horseneck Road, which has had the sign flipped about 16 times, it feels like. Under contract pending, not pending. Realtor's name back up there, back to contract pending as of this morning, or maybe it was yesterday. So, is there, we could do that after the meeting, is that all right?
I have to jot down some information from these before I put them in the file.
I have something quickly on that. too,
Okay.
If you want, just an update for everybody. This is for everyone's edification. I wrote to Mike, who's the chair of the local historic commission, district commission, thank you, this morning, and he responded later in the afternoon to me, and I'll just read to you quickly what he said. He said, "Hi, Jamie, thanks for reaching out. What I can tell you is this, the following. The RMHDC will review," and this is regarding a potential demolition application. This is everybody's concern, and none of us really quite knew who took precedent or who had real agency over it, whether it was us or whether it was the local. But this, he sets it straight on all of us. So the RMHDC will review the application first, meaning a demo application. The A local HDC is governed by the state, and state law overrules any local commission or board. All right, is that clear? State law requires that HDC review any activity within the historic district. That meaning that's his group. As the local building permit now has the question on its application, its online application, and the applicant checks the box that the property is within the historic district location, it'll automatically go to RMDHDC. To date, we have not approved any application for demo. There's no demo delay. There is no demo of homes in Russell's Mills. Hope this clears up the issue with the Trainer House. And I can copy it. If that wasn't easy for you to all follow, I'll just copy you the email, but I just wanted to read it. So
the way I understand it, it gets reviewed by the Russell Mills Historic District Commission first. It gets triggered and goes to them.
yes,
For review before it comes to us.
yes.
But that has nothing's been triggered because nothing's been
happened.
applied for.
Yeah.
Is it assumed that that's what's the projected future of this property
It was a possibility.
based on,
Based on the fact that the septic system is probably emptying into the river, for starters.
And very little of the wood that's up above the ground actually reaches the ground in important points. Well, it's something to keep an eye on. But I guess we have to wait to hear from
Will
Mike
Milner
first.
is the agent for that. I wonder if his agent is giving a clear representation of the property to.
She is.
He
If you read the listing, it states that it's in a historic district and it would, and in a floodplain, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that sort of due diligence of any potential buyer caveat noted in the literature. So nobody's walking into it not fully knowing.
There's a lot of buzz going around, and I understood that one party that went into contract or was considering buying it, that the issues with the property weren't totally represented. So maybe that's just bad. It's rumor mongering, whatever.
The real estate agent had multiple conversations with Judy Lund prior to the listing, so, I mean, it sounds like she did her due diligence as far as that was concerned.
Right, I was gonna say that. Any further discussion about the Trainer House?
No, you three folks are talking about the trainer. This is the first time I've heard about it, or I've seen it on the agenda. Why hasn't this part of the commission made a note of this? And why are we doing things outside the commission rather than we are a commission, not an individual. You all do your individual studies and not leave the commission in the loop.
You were not at the meeting when we discussed the 30 Horseneck Road.
When was that?
Last month, had to have been the month before, because I wasn't at the
Am I
last.
not allowed to be sick, or was I not
You
allowed
sent
to
out the
be?
minutes,
it's-
so the minutes were out there. When you read the minutes, it was all in the minutes.
And were you not included in Judy Lund's email chain?
I haven't been, I got one email, and it was yesterday. I haven't gotten any emails, I haven't gotten any information. I gave my email address to Linda. Linda said she would take care of it.
No, you gave it to Judy.
But you took it also, so I never had an email.
I've been sending you emails all
I haven't gotten any
week.
information on my phone considering meetings or anything.
Did you get the agenda that I sent out for this meeting and the minutes today? I sent them, you were included on the emails, for both of them, I can show you.
Judy took a corrected email from Philip at the end of last meeting.
Well, that was last month.
I don't know anything about corrected or uncorrected, but I had an email for Phil from whenever, you know, I'm on all these email chains, so I just went and took it out of my contacts, and I've been sending things. If you have a different email, then send it to me and I will include it.
Gave-
Write it down and give it to.
Yeah, give it to me, and I'll make sure that it's the same one I've been sending things out, because I
If it's-
sent you
If it's
at
been a
least two.
Yahoo, if it's been a Yahoo, it's not, I'm not gonna get the Yahoos, because the Yahoo was compromised, I had to get rid of it and get a new
Just give me
phone.
the new one and we'll start fresh. But anyway, things have been being sent to you. I'm sorry they haven't gotten to you, but this item has been on the minutes for 2 months. So, if there's anything else, I can resend the minutes. And they're also, they will be posted on the website. There was one item that I would like to include under new business, and I'm sorry that it wasn't there before, but we, I think, need to discuss who might be taking on some new positions at some point, because unfortunately, Jordan's not coming back. We need a secretary. It seems, at least temporarily, that I might be running a meeting or two, and I would like to ask somebody else, again, to be the representative at the CPC meetings, because I've taken on some additional responsibilities, and it's definitely taking up a lot more time. So, I think we need to discuss briefly if anybody might be willing to take on those roles. Oh, and that was another thing I wanted. Okay, so nobody's gonna take minutes? What are we gonna do?
Well, as you and I discussed at yesterday's meeting, perhaps we have a round robin of recording secretaries. So each person, each member does it at each different meeting. That way we shoulder and share the responsibility. Jordan's always done it, and that's been a nice luxury for all of us, because we didn't have to fiddle with it. But if we're down a person,
I thought this job was so coveted. You had me fooled.
we also discussed, so that's one thing.
Yeah.
If, I don't know, how do people feel about the round robin idea of a recording secretary? And it's not as difficult as it used to be, is it? You can take extemporaneous notes, and then you can review
Philip
it.
has been trying to get me to do it on the laptop for a long time, but I find that clickety-clackety and distracting.
But you can
But
also-
you could do it on a laptop if you want. There is a department, a DHC laptop, as far as I know, still,
Yep.
that is probably dusty at this point.
But for anybody who's afraid of not being able to write as fast as the meeting unfolds, you can always take your basic notes and then refer to the recorded meeting on DCTV to sort of fill in any gaps if you miss something. So it's not as onerous, really, as maybe some people fear it might be. So I'm just saying that.
Well, why don't we,
Does anybody know steno?
we can pause on that for the moment, and maybe we can do some email rounds to see if there might be somebody else. I don't know when I know that there's some different endpoints for people on the commission, but I don't know who's continuing, so I think maybe that needs to be an item for new business next time, is what's the membership of the commission, who's on for the next call, where are we sticking with, we currently have 8 people, is that, I mean, it's supposed to be 9, I believe, correct? Or is it supposed to be 7 people
Nine.
on the commission? So
It's
I
supposed to be
came,
9.
I came late, but I think we're 1 short, and it's kind of, we'll see where we go from here. But, yeah, I'm gonna put that on for an agenda item for next time, to discuss the secretary, and then CPC may not have a
Nice.
person who's going to the meetings for us.
Was there,
Unless
can
somebody
I
steps
interrupt?
up.
Can I?
Yeah.
Do you have an idea who you want to be on the CPC and be
Yeah, I'm not getting
CPC
any
liaison?
Let
Let
us
us
I
know.
don't. I volunteered to do it because I was new to town politics and wanted to see how things worked, and figured I'd jump in with both feet. If there's somebody else who would like to do it, they're more than welcome to.
Well,
But no, I don't. Just somebody who would represented us competently and asked questions and represent our position there. Let's table that until next time, and we can have a discussion via email, and maybe Judy has some input as well.
And it would be, and you're gonna go over the, who's up for the appointment,
Yes.
correct? Yeah, that would
Yes.
be helpful to know how many people we actually have, how many
Right,
we
I was
can
gonna
have.
call the office today and didn't get to it. It was a long afternoon.
And how do we convert you from a co-chair to a singular chairperson? Is there a slate that we put forward nominating you and so forth and so on?
No, because Judy's coming back.
No, she's not.
She's
No.
not coming back?
She's not.
No, but she hasn't,
Yep.
right.
Right.
Does she have to officially resign or anything? Okay, well, she
Senior.
hasn't shared that. So that's what, I'll give, I'll call the office next week and, see what I can find out. I'm
The
not,
clerk's office or what office?
the select board, I think
Select
the
board.
people who will do the appointments. So I will
Right.
start
But
there.
the clerk has has that information,
I know I asked in there before and
and
they,
they didn't have it?
they referred me to the select.
Okay, all right.
So I'll follow up on that. Old business, DHAS?
Quite a few things are happening, but we've kind of used up most of our time. Probably one of the more interesting ones is Susan has recently gotten an email from a man named Schofield, who has uncovered a connection with the Helfand family, which we've all been familiar with from the past. And we've collected some stories and some photographs and images of an old house that was taken by UMass Dartmouth, which was down near the Helfand farm, including quite a few first-person stories about the Helfands that we didn't have. Secondly, I've been working on a set of tools to develop biographical chronologies of individuals who lived in Dartmouth. And I've started out to demonstrate those with the earliest the first names starting with A. And Aiken, of course, becomes one of those first names. And one of the more interesting, the first name that I've done wasn't the first Aiken, but it was one that I had more information on, named David Aiken, who eventually ended up in Quaker Hill, New York. And I used the tools to demonstrate how the primary record information in the Quaker records give you what you need to get additional primary information from other good sources. And for that one person, I found out some extremely interesting stuff. He's the guy that turned in his mother-in-law for abusing her slave to the point where he died from whipping and beating in early Dartmouth. And this is when he was just a young married guy, 22 years old. We got records of his life from the town meeting records and the land records and the Quaker records and WikiTree, which is family search stuff, to the point where I've got 19 pages of information in a chronological sequence from when he was 22 to when he was 89, including excerpts from all of the deeds and all that stuff, but all primary information. And I'm kind of hoping that I'm going to be giving that work, it's going to be a workshop on family research. And I'm kind of hoping to do that work in a good setting, and I might request that we do it at the Aiken House sometime, because I think it would be fitting to start out showing Aiken family, the Aiken house, and the tools that we have, because we work together pretty well. As a matter of fact, the material is so rich that I think you could hand that to an author who knows how to make a narrative out of it. It's all the data. It's everything you need to know about this guy. He had a fight with one of his neighbors and got blasted by the Quakers for that. And then he was given money because he took care of some pauper and put him up in his own house. So he's really an interesting character. And it's just the first one. I didn't choose him out of any reason except his name was Aiken. And I can't imagine when I see the rest of them.
He's Elihu's half-brother.
Yes, correct,
Okay.
correct. And
I wanted
the
to
other
make sure we
brother,
have the right David.
what's that?
I said I wanted to make sure we have the right David.
Oh, yes.
He's the Quaker Hill guy.
Yeah. There's another brother, I've gone to the second one, named Benjamin,
Yes.
and he wasn't as much involved with the Quakers, except that he was given some money to bring up to Boston to help the Quakers in Boston with a meeting house. He went to Boston because he was a representative to the general court from Dartmouth. And he is all over the town meeting records. He was the clerk, the moderator, an assessor, a selectman, you name it. And I got hundreds of records of his life to go with David. And I'm sure I'll have the same thing for all the other acres and for all the other thousands of people who lived in colonial Dartmouth. So this data that we have developed is just so incredibly interesting and rich for us to do more with, and that's what I would like to do.
I'll
I
call
think
you
it's
tomorrow.
fascinating. I want to be that writer.
Also, I think the painting contractors have started, is that correct?
The staging is up, but I'm sure with this
Staging
weather,
is
they
up,
have not
okay.
started.
Yep, yep.
Looked like they were power washing today.
Possibly, yep, I didn't go by.
And we have a book launch at the Whaling Museum. That's going to be July 22nd. A luncheon, book signing, and all that good stuff. Yeah, and Linda's our leader in planning that.
All of you.
Other things, but I won't take the time. That's,
All right, well, thank you, Bob. I have nothing to add to the CPC review because we've heard from Diane and that was the major thing that I would have reported on. Unless I'm missing something. We discussed a lot about agricultural restrictions because of the Schofield House. That was a big topic of discussion. I won't go into that at 8:30 either. And archaeological survey, there's been no update to that. I'm sure they've gotten a lot of the material. Last I checked with Holly, they were updating maps, sensitivity maps, and adding information, looking at the LiDAR in detail and things like that. So hopefully that's just progressing. The two other things I had tacked on here that you don't have, there won't, unless somebody contacts me specifically and says that they cannot access the online demo permits, there aren't gonna be any more copies. And even so, Michelle said she's done making copies. If you need help accessing the laptop and getting on the town website to see all this stuff, she and or Chad are happy to help again. But that's no longer in her job description. And the next meeting is going to be July 10th because July 3rd doesn't work. It's too close to the holiday. It's a long weekend and we just thought it might be best to put it on a date when people have fewer plans. And unless,
July 4th already?
I know it. And the only other thing that I guess I would add is, sorry to see you go and thanks for everything.
Yeah, thank you. Well done.
How long has it been?
Take a little time off and then we'll see you back.
I thought it was 9 years, it's 8.5 years.
Oh, it is counting.
2014, late 2014.
So what kind of short break do you need before you come back?
I probably will one day, but,
Oh,
you
good.
know, my life has gotten busier and busier.
I know, I keep seeing you in videos and things on the Whaling Museum site.
Well, you did a great job. I always enjoyed receiving your minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, you've done a great job.
Very thorough.
Yes,
As I said,
thank you.
that's part of mass open meeting law requirements, is to have thoughtful and thorough meeting minutes recorded and so forth, so it's essential.
It is essential, thank you. Is there anything else? If not, then it's time for somebody to do something.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.